Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some pajama shorts and hopefully out of this other flannel fabric that I've gotten, some pajama pants and also a collared t-shirt. First we're going to start with the shorts. This is a really pretty teal Halloween print flannel that I bought from Joann Fabrics. I got this when it was on sale for $2.99 a yard. It is the Super Snuggle print flannel. I just got an email from them this morning. Today it is on sale for the $2.99 a yard. Again, it is normally $7.99 a yard. This whole week they have had it on a 40 to 60% off depending on the day. Now today it is back down to the $2.99 a yard. This one is teal with like little, I would call it more of a children's print. They're kind of fun little Halloween characters, little ghosts and Frankenstein. There's a skeleton with glasses on there. Not super scary. I did pre-wash and dry this to make sure that any shrinking that would happen is already done. That way it doesn't happen on my finished piece and then it only fits for wearing at one time and then it's too small. So what I've done is I've taken a pair of pajama shorts that fit my daughter really well that she would like remade. And what I've done is I have folded them exactly on the seam. This is the back side of the shorts, and you will notice on shorts and pants, the back side of them, where this, we call it the crotch curve, but where the crotch curve or the butt curve is, the kind that is, or the area that is going to meet in the crotch area that joins the front and back of the pants, on the back panels of it, has a much deeper curve on it. That is to accommodate your bottom because the back of you, obviously the shorts need to be just a little bit longer and the curve needs to be a little bit deeper in order to hug around your butt area and then make it to the center seam. Otherwise, if it is too short, they will sit really wonky. You'll see the front of your shorts kind of pulling towards the back and getting bunched up, and the back will kind of be riding up and giving you a wedgie. So you want to make sure whenever you fold them in half, you do not just fold them in half on this seam up top. You want to make sure that you actually pull out that crotch area and make sure that the curve is also directly on that seam in the back, because like I said, the back will have a deeper curve than the front, and you'll see that when we flip them around. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut these out, and I'm going to cut and give myself just a little bit of space around them. So I'm going to slide these over a little bit, and I'm going to give myself about a ½ inch, about that much around them on all sides. And when I come up from where this crotch curve starts, I'm going to go straight up instead of along the curve of these pants. And the reason for that is, if you can see, they do have an elastic waistband. If I would stretch this waistband all the way out, it would make a straight line from where this curve starts all the way up. And from here, where they start to angle, all the way up in a straight line. And then whenever you add your elastic waistband, it cinches that waist in, and that's what causes this curve once the product is finished and folded. So we're going to make sure that we cut that in a straight line, not curved inward. Otherwise our waist is going to be way too small. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and go around, give myself that about ½ inch on the outside of all this. And if it helps you, you can take a chalk pin and actually measure ½ inch and mark around. I'm just going to eyeball it, and then you'll see too where this crotch curve ends and it would join with the front. It is not a straight line down, it kind of goes at an angle, so we're going to follow that angle also whenever we cut. Like so. And then I'm just going to follow that curve. And here is where it starts to straighten out. So now I'm going to run a straight line all the way up from here. Again, if it helps, you can lay a ruler down. That way you know you are cutting straight. And then just going to follow from this side down here. Again, giving myself about a 1/2 inch. And that 1/2 inch for me, it doesn't probably need to be that big. I like to give myself a little extra space just to make sure that my seams are done properly. Now, if you wanted to be super meticulous and measure all of your seam allowances out to the T, then you could do that at this point. I'm just going to give myself a rough estimate. So here, we had that slight curve from this crotch area here going back. So now is where the shorts should start, right about here, to go straight up into a straight line. So we're going to follow that as straight as possible. Again, I'm not messing with the ruler, I'm just kind of rough eyeballing it. And that's one thing with pajama and lounge pants, if you're just making them for yourself to lounge around at home, you can give yourself a little bit of leeway to mess up a little bit. That's why I like to trim a little bit extra for my seam allowance, just in case I would get off and need to rip seams. Sometimes it can fray your fabric, and then I know I have a little bit of extra space to fall back on. If you're making them to sell, then I would highly encourage you to measure everything out, chalk mark it, and definitely measure twice, cut once. So here is some of that fraying just from the fabric going through the wash and the dryer. I'm just going to trim that off and get it out of my way before I start with my sewing. That way it doesn't get caught up in my machine and cause any problems. So this is actually 2 panels now. Both of our back panels on our shorts, so our left and our right leg. What we will do is leave these with the right sides facing together. And the way you can tell your right side and your wrong side, the wrong side is going to look a little bit faded. Your right side is going to be nice and bright with that pattern on there. So you want your bright sides smushed together and both of your dull sides facing you. So what we will do now is just sew right along the seam that we've created. First, we're going to go ahead and flip these shorts the other way, and we are going to cut out our front panels. And real quick before I move on, I'm going to pin these 2 panels for the back in place. That way, whenever I move them over to the side, I don't end up sliding them around and get them misaligned. So just going to run a few little pins through here. Okay, so that part is actually, I might put just one across the top here. All right, now we are going to move that out of the way. Okay, so now I have slid my fabric up to where I ended that last cut. And this is the side that we had folded before. This is our back, so now we're going to fold the front. Another thing that I would point out is your back on your waistband will stick up higher than your front because of that longer crotch curve that we talked about. So you're going to kind of tuck that back part of the waistband behind there. That way it is just the front of our waistband that we're measuring from and the front of our crotch seam here. So we're going to fold right on that line. Alright, and you'll notice I have my fabric folded here. The reason I do that is so that whenever I cut, I've already got both panels done at the same time, rather than having it just lay with one layer on the table and cutting out 4 separate ones and then trying to match them up. Alright, so now what we're going to do is put our front and back panels together. When you're sewing something like this, especially if you're new to sewing, to help you keep track of which side is the front and back, you could either take a little fabric marker on the wrong side of the fabric, make a little B for back, or you can just take a pin right up top and just mark the back side or mark the front side, whichever you choose. That way you can keep track of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these together with the right sides together again. So this is my back panel here. And that little split in the middle is what is our crotch area. So we are going to flatten that out. And then we are going to take our front panel, flip it with the right side touching the right side on that one. That way the doll side is towards us. And we're going to take that little split in the middle on it and flatten it out right on top of that crotch seam for the back. So we're just going to match up the two, the back and the front. Now with this, to help them nest better, we have our seam on this top one laying to the right. The seam on the bottom one is laying to the left. If you have them both going the same way, it's going to make a big raised spot. It's better to nest them with one seam laying to one direction and one laying to the other. Especially if you have a really thick fabric, like if you were working with like a really thick like polar fleece or something for some pants, you definitely would not want to lay those seams the same direction because that kind of material is bulky in general. All right, we're going to pin this. All right, so we are ready to sew these crotch seams together. You will notice they do come to a slight V shape. We're just going to go ahead and follow the shape of this with our machine. You want to make sure your pieces are lined up. Again, I'm going to use the 1/4 inch seam. Okay. So there we are with the crotch seams together. Now we are going to sew our side seams. So where the crotch seam is here, adjacent to it is your leg hole. So crotch seam makes like a T shape with the leg hole. This seam that runs parallel to it. So on the opposite side, this is your side seam. So we're gonna go ahead and pin those in place and then we will sew those. All right, so now we are going to sew our side seams using that same 1/4 inch seam. So there is one down. My shorts are done, except for the one where I'm going to put the waistband on. So I'm going to finish the edges on these because flannel does fray. And the way I'm going to do that is I am going to pick a finishing stitch on my machine. So we will go with, let's see, 24 is a pretty good one. This is a loop finish. And I'm going to make it a little bit longer. And I'm just going to set my needle right next to that original. So the unfinished edge is here. This is the finished edge. So we have these little loops that kind of bind it in. I'm just going to finish doing this on all of my seams. All right, so now we are ready to make our waistband. So I have some 3/4 inch elastic here for my waistband. So what I've done is cut a strip of my felt material, and I cut this at 1 3/4 inches wide. That way I have enough, because 1 1/2 inches will cover as a casing. If I wrap it around here, and then you will have enough for your seam to sew it onto the shorts themselves. So what I'm going to do is make the casing on the shorts first. So now comes the difficult part. I've sewn my casing around as far as I can, and now because our elastic is cut smaller than our waist, I've gotten to a point to where I have more material than I have elastic. So what we have to do at this point is actually pull on that elastic, stretch it, and we need to hold it stretched like that while we sew the remainder of our waistband. So right now I'm just getting my fabric tucked like I need to, and it helps sometimes if you stretch it from the back also. And again, take your time, readjust whenever you need to. This is not a part that you want to rush. Okay, and we are on the final leg here. And when I'm pulling, I'm only pulling on the elastic part itself, not the flannel. So I'm just grabbing the elastic band that's already sewn in. I'm not going to grab this and yank on it. I'm tugging from here, which is the band that's in there, just to straighten out the flannel, not to actually stretch the flannel.